The dancing plague of 1518, a city that couldn't stop moving. It began with a single step. On a hot July day in the year 1518, in the bustling medieval city of Strasbourg, nestled within the Holy Roman Empire, modern-day France, a woman stepped out into the narrow, sun-drenched street and began to dance. No music played. No festival was underway. She danced alone, in silence, with jerking, compulsive movements. Her name was Frau Troffea, and what she began would soon spiral into one of the strangest recorded events in European history, a bizarre outbreak of uncontrollable, even deadly, dancing. The city on edge. Strasbourg in 1518 was a city teetering on the edge of crisis. The region had suffered famine, inflation, and disease. The people were hungry, scared, and deeply religious. The Church taught that misfortunes were divine punishments, and the population feared the wrath of saints and the fires of hell. Life was hard. Life was uncertain. And for many, guilt and fear of sin were woven into daily existence. It's in this fragile social climate that Frau Troffea's feet began to move. She danced for hours. People gathered, confused and anxious. She didn't seem happy. She didn't laugh or spin with joy. Her movements were twitchy, panicked, almost desperate, as though her body were possessed by something she could not control. And still, she danced. Candle day after day. After a full day, she hadn't stopped. She danced into the night, her feet blistered, her clothes soaked. By the next day, rumors had spread like wildfire. Locals whispered of demonic possession, divine punishment, or madness. But by the third day, something even more shocking occurred. Others joined her. A few people at first. Then a dozen. Then dozens. Some reports claim that within a week, over 30 people were dancing in the streets of Strasbourg, unable to stop. By the end of the month, the number may have reached 400. No one knew what to make of it. These weren't joyful dancers, they were suffering. Their bodies trembled and spasmed. Some cried out in pain. Some collapsed from exhaustion, only to rise again and continue. Some died, of heart attacks, strokes, or sheer fatigue. The plague wasn't infectious in the traditional sense, but it spread, like a wave of psychological panic sweeping through a vulnerable population. The authorities respond. The city's physicians were baffled. But interestingly, they ruled out demonic causes and declared it a natural illness, one they attributed to hot blood. According to the humoral theory of medicine, then widely accepted, too much heat in the blood could cause fevers, passions, and erratic behavior. Their cure? More dancing. The city officials, acting on medical advice, arranged for public stages, hired musicians, and even opened guild halls for the afflicted to dance safely. They believed that by encouraging the dancers to exhaust the illness from their bodies, the plague would pass more quickly. But it didn't. The music only intensified the scene. Imagine it, hundreds of exhausted, half-crazed people dancing frantically while musicians played around them, and a crowd looked on in disbelief. A crisis of faith. As the deaths mounted, the city's tone changed. Physicians began to suspect a spiritual cause after all. Public prayers were held. Religious processions marched through Strasbourg. People blamed everything from sinful behavior to astrological alignments. Some believed the victims were being punished by St. Vitus, the patron saint of dance and epilepsy. In desperation, the authorities took a new course. They banned music and dancing. No drums, no fiddles, no street performances. Those still caught dancing were rounded up and taken to a shrine of St. Vitus in the mountains, where they were expected to repent and receive blessings. This seemed to work. Slowly, the dancing stopped. The afflicted either recovered, succumbed to illness, or simply collapsed, never to rise again. After a few months, it was over. Strasbourg fell quiet again. What really happened? The dancing plague has puzzled historians for centuries. While it might sound like a legend, multiple historical sources confirm it. The Strasbourg city archives mention it. Physicians and chroniclers recorded the event in detail. So what could cause hundreds of people to dance themselves to death? Here are the leading theories. 1. Mass psychogenic illness, mass hysteria. The most widely accepted theory is that the outbreak was a form of mass hysteria, now called mass psychogenic illness. In a highly stressed, superstitious society, it's possible that one person's strange behavior triggered a chain reaction. Frau Troffea may have been suffering from a psychological disorder or even a seizure disorder. But as others watched her dance, and perhaps believed they were seeing divine punishment, they began to dance too, overcome by the power of suggestion and fear. Modern parallels exist. Fainting spells in schools, laughter epidemics, and even some social media-driven panics can be examples of mass psychogenic phenomena. When the mind is stressed and the environment is ripe, the body can do strange things. 2. Ergot poisoning. Another theory is ergotism, caused by eating rye bread infected with ergot, a fungus that produces hallucinogens similar to LSD. Ergot can cause convulsions, hallucinations, and muscle spasms. But critics of this theory point out that ergot poisoning rarely causes rhythmic, coordinated movements, and it would affect people randomly, not in such a socially contagious way. Also, it's unlikely that affected people could dance for days on end. 3. Religious ecstasy or cult behavior. Some have suggested that this was a form of collective religious ecstasy, possibly tied to local beliefs about saints and sin. Medieval Europe had a long history of flagellant movements, possession events, and visions. Dancing was sometimes seen as a form of ecstatic religious expression or penance, so perhaps people were dancing out their guilt, either consciously or subconsciously. Skull 4. Social trauma and PTSD. The region had been devastated by famine, war, and plague. Some historians argue that the dancing plague was a kind of social breakdown, a public, physical expression of deep psychological trauma. For people who had lost everything, whose world no longer made sense, dancing may have been a way to surrender to madness, or find purpose within it. The legacy of the dancing plague. The dancing plague of 1518 is unique, but it's not the only case. Similar outbreaks occurred in Germany, the Netherlands, and even Switzerland between the 14th and 17th centuries, though none reached the scale of Strasbourg. Today, it remains a chilling example of how the mind, culture, and environment can come together to produce the inexplicable. Was it illness, possession, trauma, suggestion, or was it something else entirely? Final thoughts. The image of Strasbourg's people, peasants, merchants, perhaps even children, dancing wildly in the summer heat, their feet bleeding, their minds caught in something beyond comprehension, continues to haunt the historical imagination. It reminds us that history isn't always rational, that the human mind is vulnerable, and that under enough pressure, even an entire city might dance, not from joy, but from something far more unsettling.